Hey riders, welcome to BMR Interviews, where we talk to the most interesting people in the motorcycle world. Hi, this is Tom from Best Motorcycle Roads Interviews, and we've got Joe here today from Motorcycle Adventures. How's it going?
Not too bad. How you doing?
Good. We caught Joe kind of on his channel on YouTube, and he's got a kind of various different videos out there. Joe, do you want to tell us about you and your channel and who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jogo. I have a YouTube channel called Jogo Motorcycle Adventures. Started a little over 3 years ago, kind of just as like a little hobby. My cousin gave me an old school GoPro Hero Session. It was like a 3 or 4 little cube camera, clipped it on the handlebars, started recording my rides. And I from there I really started getting into video stuff, like getting all the gadgets, and came across a guy named Robert Simmons from another YouTube channel, Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle. And he was doing slow speed maneuver stuff. And I I just so happened to be Googling. I was sitting on the couch. I'm like, you know what? I need to start learning some like maneuvers on my bike. And there he was, and started watching his videos. I got hooked. Just basic stuff like single cone serpentine, U-turns, just all your basic stuff that everybody should be able to do. But I a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff. So that's why I was searching for that kind of info. So I it hooked me into doing all the slow speed stuff, some cone work, and then I figured, let's start posting some stuff on YouTube, just stuff that I've already learned myself that I'm proficient at. And from there, man, it just started growing, and now I think I have close to 300 videos on there, and I'm
Wow.
having a blast doing it.
It's funny. A few years back, I had taken the MSF course when I first started, and I found
Mm,
that very helpful. And then a few years later, I took the advanced course, and there's a couple things that I noticed. Number one, I was not nearly as nimble on that motorcycle as I thought, and
yeah.
number two, I was one of the more nimble riders that were in that course. It was kind of scary, how people weren't really able to slowly manipulate their motorcycle, and granted there's some pretty good sized motorcycles out there. Some of these didn't have a huge motorcycle either. It was like you it's kind of interesting, like, and I don't know if that's kind of what you're talking about a little bit. I wonder if
Yeah.
there's statistics. It seems like, a lot of times when people have a small accident, it ends up probably being at low speeds.
Yeah, so I can't remember the statistic off the top of my head, but most motorcycle accidents happen at slow speeds because you don't you don't need much skill. Well, you need some skill, but you don't need much going fast because the bike does all the work. You
Right.
can literally let go of the handlebars and the bike's going to keep on going straight. It's once you get between, 5 to 7 miles per hour, you need to be in control of that bike. And you mentioned you took the MSF
Yeah.
course, and it's a great start, but you have to further your knowledge after you take that course,
Right.
because that like after I started diving into it, there is so much to learn, and I don't know everything. I'm taking courses after courses, learning new stuff, and I'm actually out here in Illinois right now, getting ready to take another motorcycle course this weekend. But you just take a look around after you start practicing like U-turns and just going slow, you'll naturally realize, look around at all the other riders and be like, man, I
It's
don't know how they
scary.
made it this far. Yeah.
It's really scary. So, like, what things would you give to people that maybe have just never thought about this before? I mean, like, what are kind of your top tips? And then I know I watched one of your videos about U-turns, like in gravel, which I think are
Right.
another one of those spots where you think, "Oh, I'm not going to ride gravel." Well, you don't always have a choice.
Right.
Sometimes, yeah. Tell us about like maybe top tips and what would you give people advice we can send them to see your video too. But what advice do you
Okay.
give people for that kind of thing?
Yeah. So my number one tip would have to be go seek further training. I mean, that's and you can watch all the YouTube videos you want. You can watch my videos, other YouTubers' videos, but number two would be you have to go out and practice and apply these techniques, or you're just going to be riding the same way that you have been this whole time. Um, a lot of people, the light bulb moment for me is a lot of people don't use their rear brake, and when you're going slow, that's your rear brake's going to be your best friend because it's going to give you stability and you're able to control your speed. And a lot of people, when they come to a stop, they use their front brake. And I used to be that guy. I would never use the rear brake. In fact, I mean, I had a 17 Street Glide that I had for 6 or 7 years, and the first 4 years, I never used the rear brake. My brake pads were brand new. And then once I learned how to properly use my brakes, I mean, I'll replace my rear brakes once a year. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's interesting. I have a 22 Goldwing and it's the automatic, and I was literally just on a
mhm,
forum today, and they're like, "Well, how do how do you feather the what's the feather the clutch version when there's no clutch?" And
yeah,
it was funny how many people were talking about not using the brake, using the front brake, using this. It's like when I use the front brake, I mean, it kind of stops you, and then I feel like, and then over I go, like,
right.
and I love that rear brake, especially when there's no clutch. Now on that auto, it's an
Mhm.
automatic, and so yeah, dragging that rear brake really does feel different. Um,
Yeah, because when you use that front brake and you're going slow, all your weight's transferring to the front end, and in return, all that weight's making the front end feel heavier. And if you have those handlebars turned and you're hitting that brake, I mean, you,
it's over.
you're losing your balance, you're falling over. I mean, uh, the only time you really want to be using that front brake is 10 miles per hour or higher.
Okay.
I mean, we can get technical when you're in the curves and stuff. That's another thing people don't realize. Everybody is afraid of using the front brake during a turn. But if they look up trail braking and seek the proper training, that's basically all you use to control the bike when you're in the curves.
Yeah, you want
And
that weight on the front wheel so it doesn't leave you. Like
right.
you want to shift
Yeah.
that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much stuff that you can learn to make you a better rider, and once you learn all these techniques, it makes riding that much more enjoyable. Because everybody's starts getting nervous and stuff when they start really getting into curves or getting ready to come to a stop. I mean, it just makes it so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, how about a turnaround in gravel then? And granted, I mean, I'm hearing you loud and clear. Get some
Yeah.
training, but what about what about those guys that could use a little help today?
Right. Yeah. So the whole idea for the video of turning in gravel came about. I'm sitting there, and I found myself in plenty of situations where you turn into you're at an event or something, and a lot of bars and stuff have gravel parking lots,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't care who you are, even me still. I get a little bit nervous when I come across the gravel,
Right.
but it nothing really changes from making a U-turn on asphalt except you don't want to lean the bike. I,
Gotcha.
you want to keep the bike straight up and down. You keep a steady throttle and you're in the friction zone. And if your listeners don't know exactly what the friction zone is, it's that sweet spot in your clutch where it starts giving power to the rear wheel.
Yep.
And no matter how high your throttle is, the bike's going to still move at a steady pace. Once you get out of that and the bike lurches forward, then you're no longer in the friction zone or you're not moving.
Right.
So you stay in that friction zone. You're dragging that rear brake just a little bit for that added stability. And then everything else is the same. You keep your body perpendicular with the bike. You turn your handlebars, look where you want to go, and no problem. But the
That's
caveat to that is if you're in like deep gravel, like we're talking, your tires making divots in the
make a track.
ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, chances are you're going to want to go pretty slow, and I'll give you permission to duck walk the bike in that.
Is that the same in grass then, Joe?
No.
Okay.
So well, yes and no.
Okay.
So you can do all the same stuff in grass, but again, if it's like super wet and your bike's sinking, one, you don't really want to be there. and and two, like you can walk the bike if you need to. Um you just this is why you need to practice these techniques for when you find yourself in these situations. And once you're there, you're like, no problem, I got this.
I
No problem.
remember the same thing when I got done with the very first basic training, and they said, just get going, at a 40-mile-an-hour clip and just try to stop it, as fast as you can. I think of the same thing that made me think of that when you said that, because it's like the best way to know how to stop fast is have stopped fast a few times. So,
Right.
yeah, kind of knowing the feeling of what's going to happen. I know then it was like feeling the rear brake. When's that rear brake going to lock up? When, certain points, I feel like you're telling, know when too far is too far with turning, so that you're not, so it doesn't feel as uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
in my opinion, emergency braking, that's at like the top of the list of stuff to practice, because that can literally save your life. And if you're not doing it properly, a lot of people just grab the front brake and hope they stop.
Well,
And
at least,
luckily nowadays that you have ABS and stuff, but you can't depend on ABS.
well, and, you know, it is nice, but like you do want some of that rear brake too. I mean, you don't want just front brake.
Right.
I mean, boy, oh boy, you don't want trouble like that. So you have
Right.
all kinds of other videos on your channel as well. So you do these like I always see them with police courses, right? But like those, are they called obstacle courses? Is that what they'd be called? Like
Uh, you,
cone
you ref-
the cone
I,
ones.
I think, yeah, I think you're referring to rodeos.
Okay, yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's
So I've
amazing.
done, yeah, I've done one rodeo,
Uh-huh.
and it was this year. I can't remember. I'm bad with dates. I think it was in March this year in Pensacola, Florida.
And how'd
I
that go?
entered my first. It went better than I thought. I was intimidated. There's a lot of excellent riders that were there, but I found when you're at one of these rodeos, at least this one, everybody's more than willing to help everybody, and you have to go into it more as a learning experience rather than a competition. And I came out of there with a lot more knowledge in the novice division, which some of these patterns that they had, I don't know how they call it novice. I came out fourth place,
Oh
so I
wow.
was happy with that.
I'm just so impressed how it looks like one of these, I know sometimes they have some old Kawasaki's or Harleys, and they're big bikes, and these guys are throwing them
Right.
around like I couldn't do on a bicycle, I don't think. So
Yeah. Well, they're just riding them the way that they were designed to be ridden.
it's pretty amazing what can be done if you're doing the techniques like you've described so far. It's really neat to see someone that really knows how to ride a motorcycle. So
Right. Yeah, and even if you get like the basic U-turns down and stuff, people think it's a magic trick. It's like, no, we're just riding the bike the way it was made to be ridden.
there's a trick that sometimes I've seen with mostly adventure bikes, and they stand up and then they flip that kickstand down. It stops and then they just get off, and it's on the kickstand.
Oh,
It just reminds me of
yeah.
that sometimes. Like it's just amazing what people can, and some of these guys that do these stunt riding on some of these motors, it's amazing how much time they must have
Oh, yeah.
put in to do some of these things. So if people want to get connected to your channel, what's the name of the channel, and where can they find you there?
Okay.
And then,
Yeah,
or the
you can.
website, because you have a website as well, correct?
Yep, yep, yep. So as far as social media goes, you can go to YouTube and type in Jogo Motorcycle Adventures. It's if you just type in Jogo,
You
Joegoe.
nailed it with
um
that. That's some branding there, Joe.
yeah. So my real first name's Josiah, but my last name is Go. But I
Awesome.
just go. I've gone by Joe my entire life. So you can find me on YouTube there. I'm on Facebook, just
Okay.
Jogo, Instagram, same thing, Jogo Motorcycle Adventures, TikTok,
What are they
all
gonna?
the
What
social
else will they
medias.
find on the website then, Joe?
So if you go over to my website, jogomotorcycleadventures.com, I'm now offering some private lessons if
Okay.
you're interested in that. And then typically once a month during the riding season, I'll do a free practice session out by my local high school out there. I'm located in Ohio,
Okay.
and the sessions happen in Strongsville, Ohio.
Okay.
And l- I've had a decent amount of people come out, and it's a great time. And we just get out there. I go through some techniques. We all practice, and it's a blast.
That's awesome. I love it. Go check Jogo out, and we'll see all the things that we need to improve on. Right.
Right? Yeah.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Hey, appreciate it, man.